Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Anthony Liu. Greetings from Hong Kong. It's evening right now here in Hong Kong, and we're all stuck at home, working at home because of the virus. But this is our home setup. Everyone else in China, the other panelists are also in the same situation. I work at Swire Properties, based in Hong Kong. We're a listed property developer in Hong Kong, but we operate primarily in Greater China. We do commercial, we do hotels, residential, and I lead the new ventures team at Swire Properties. So we're the tech and innovation team. And it's been my privilege over the last year and a half or so to have worked with both Chen and Alice on some really interesting prop tech projects together, namely Urban Lab, China's first PropTech accelerator, which we're going to talk about during this call. And yeah, over to you guys.
Hi everyone, this is Chen. I'm based in Shanghai, also working from home now. I work at JLL, so I'm based in JLL's Shanghai office, and I mainly work focusing on sort of the prop tech engagement from JLL perspective. And yeah, and similarly, last year it's been a great trip working with Anthony and Alice on this Urban Lab project. We had the honor to work with the Ping An Cloud team, and also 12 great technology companies. And yeah, we learned a great deal about sort of the overall prop tech scene in Greater China region. Alice, over to you.
Hi, is it my turn now?
Yeah, go ahead, Alice.
So hi guys, this is Alice. So I work at Ping An Urban Tech, and it is the smart city division of Ping An Group. Ping An is the biggest insurance company in China, or in the world, by market cap. So a bit about my background. I used to work in real estate finance, and then I worked briefly with Fifth Wall in their office in LA. And back in 2018, I relocated back to Shanghai to help build Ping An smart city platforms. And in this role, I help the company manage ongoing relationship with some of the local real estate companies in China, and together help to build an urban tech ecosystem in China. And this effort, both Anthony and Chen has introduced, resulted in co-founding Urban Lab. So we're trying to do a lot of interesting things in local market and help the prop tech and urban tech ecosystem grow here. And we'd love to share some of our findings and learnings with you guys today.
Chen, maybe you want to take this one?
Yeah, so for Urban Lab, the sort of original idea of getting to know the world of prop tech in the context of the Greater China region originated, I think, early last year. And since both JLL and Swire Properties and Ping An, we're in the same field, and everyone sort of have this ongoing initiative of understanding PropTech more. And so we started to contact each other and basically started this idea of whether we wanted to launch an accelerator program together. We are very honored that everything went out very smoothly. We have a huge amount of support from all of our 3 companies internally. And by working with Ping An Cloud, who is the operator of Urban Lab Accelerator, we started off this whole journey from July last year all the way until December. And for the duration of the program, we spent about half of that time screening and inviting all of the technology companies who are already in the field of real estate, mainly commercial, because JLL, we operate in the commercial real estate sphere, same as Swire, who operates some of the most premium commercial real estate properties in China, similar to Ping An as well. And so we started off by going understand the overall context that was about 300 companies. And then we narrowed it down to over 116 technology companies. The Ping An cloud team, they work very hard doing interviews with all of these technology companies. And we actually asked them if they've already have mature solutions and products that is that works in this field. And then by the end of September, I think we narrowed down to 12 companies, and JLL, Swire, and Ping An, we each chose 4 companies to work closely with. And then for the rest of 2.5 months or so, we worked basically hand in hand with all of these technology companies to develop sustainable POCs that would actually, we think, would be able to help our clients from the JLL's perspective to either improve efficiency or provide value add. So by the end of December, we held a demo day event in Shanghai. And and it turned out great. Over 150 guests showed up. A lot of them are really interested in knowing about PropTech and what can all of these technology companies bring to the table. And I think overall it was a huge success. For all of the 3 partners. We all had a great time working with these technology companies. It's sort of a learning journey from both ends. It's a great experience for the technology companies to get to know the world of commercial real estate a little bit more, and similarly for us to understand what are some practical ways to apply all of these frontier technologies such as artificial intelligence, big data, 3D visualization, robotics into the real context of commercial real estate, into our day-to-day work. So that is sort of an overall brief of what we've accomplished. And the journey definitely did not stop there. We are still working very closely with these technology companies, even after a demo day. I think some of the applications are doing very well in the Swire Properties as well, and it's been a blast overall in terms of both collaboration between JLL, Swire, and Ping An, but also a great journey to learn from all of these technology partners that we built a close relationship with.
Yeah, from our end, I think launching the accelerator was a no-brainer. And the reason was really simple. It's because we realized we didn't know enough about Chinese technology. We knew that a lot of stuff was going on in China, but we just didn't have a sustainable, fast, time-efficient way for us to trial these solutions. So what better way to learn about technology than to try it? And when we mean trial, we don't mean in an isolated lab somewhere. We wanted to have real-world trials, actually in our operations, actually in our properties. A lot of these solutions actually ended up directly affecting and benefiting our tenants or customers. And so really, for us, it was a learning exercise because even though our company is based in Greater China, we realized that a lot of the time we didn't know about the best and the brightest and the cutting edge solutions that were coming from the Chinese tech ecosystem. So it was really about trialing as the fastest way to learn. And that's why we did it.
So hi, back to me, I guess. So from Pinan's perspective, I guess we're a local player. So our purpose can be a little bit different from that end. So there are two things, essentially. First is partnership. We want to find partners to do this together. And, you know, we realize it's just really hard to play this game alone. Not to say that, you know, PropTech, relatively speaking, is kind of early in China. Second is to find a synergy. You know, each one of us could do this POC alone. And then, you know, we do a lot of trial and errors, and then we find the right partners and find the right startups to work with. However, if, you know, we unite as one, we get to test all of this together and we see what kind of solutions work immediately. And then if, you know, one solution would work for one, and then I guess, you know, is an easier answer for us to say, what can some other solutions also be implemented to us? So I guess, you know, it's just, you know, working with more players will help us leverage both speed and expertise. And as well, end of the day, I think, you know, for a big company like us, we're looking to cultivate really an ecosystem that everyone can work together and to try things. And yeah, and that's why we decided to do this with Zhao and Swire.
I see a question that was asked by Ying Ying. Let me read that out. Can you guys talk about the pilot process for each of the tech companies to try out their products? And how easy was it to convince people to adopt and trial the test, right? If you guys don't mind, I can answer this very quickly. For us, the most important thing was to engage with the business units and the departments first. To understand what they are interested in, what they're looking for, to understand their pain points, their wish lists, and to get their ideas and buy-in before we go out and source the tech companies. Because if we find a bunch of tech companies and then we think they're great, but then we push it at the departments and it's not what they were looking for, it doesn't matter if we find the best company in the world. If it's not aligned to their current strategy and their needs, then it's not going to go anywhere. So I think BU engagement was probably the most important phase in the entire Urban Lab, and also in all of the trials that we run in Swire Properties. For Urban Lab in particular, we had a few months where we went and did workshops and meetings with all of the departments who were going to be looking for this tech. And we got their buy-in and really went in detail through all of their needs and all of their particular requests. And we found out that a lot of the things that they've been wanting to try for a long time, like they already knew what they wanted, but they maybe didn't have the time, they didn't have the knowledge or the resources or the money or the budget to go find those things. So I guess it wasn't about taking the stuff and then convincing people to try it. The order was flipped around. It was more important to find out what they want first and then go and source based on those requests. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and just add on to that, I think definitely, you know, having a clear understanding of, you know, your internal corporate strategy or vision towards how technology can help your business is really important. So, you know, from Zhao's perspective, we actually did have sort of an overall direction or pillars that we wanted to emphasize on. It was in the 4 areas, so including analyze, transact, manage, and design and build. So in those 4 areas, whatever the technology can help either improve efficiency or saving costs, or just value add to differentiate our services, against our competitors or whatever existing solutions that is out there, is definitely on our list. And I think second of all, I think Ping An Cloud team did a pretty good job of finding a very good group of high quality technology companies that are also have a very high willingness to learn. So in October, we actually had a 3-day workshop where we invited all of the participants and invited them into one room. So we have, people from all of the different business lines from JLL, Swire, and Ping An. And, we just sit in one room talking about, the pain points or the experience that we had or any kind of challenges that we had in our current situation to help these technology companies to understand how could they potentially use their current products or solutions to help us improve that sort of working efficiency. And I think that 3-day bootcamp definitely built a good, solid understanding and foundation towards our, cooperation for the next 2 months or so throughout the acceleration period.
There's a question from Jasmine. Maybe Alice can answer that because it's about macro trends for Chinese PropTech.
Sure. Hi, Jasmine. So this is Alice. Definitely hope can, address some of, the questions you have about how's the status of PropTech development in mainland China, any difference in terms of concept from other countries, and what's the challenges now. So let me give you some stats that, we have seen through running through Urban Labs. So in Urban Lab, we had about 120 applications. So through these applications, we actually had a relatively good overview of, what the PropTech landscape looks like right now in China. And actually, the 3 partners are going to publish a report in March, so stay tuned. But let me just share some preliminary data. So in China, PropTech is relatively early. So what we have seen is, about 90% of those startups actually are founded in or after 2013. And as well, so we have some
I'm sharing my screen. Yeah. Can you guys see it?
Yeah, we can see it. So, and as you can see there, we had about 60% of these startups actually headquartered in the 3 major cities in China. So unlike in the US, when I worked in the PropTech VCs in the US, you see, although a lot of PropTech startups are in San Fran and New York, but you kind of also see them everywhere, like, Houston, Dallas, you see them also like in LA, but it's in China they're actually more focused, and I think one reason for that is because a lot of real estate companies in China are actually headquartered in the major cities. And as well, I think this is also a big, very unique point about China is that, almost half of them focuses on operation and maintenance. So which means we haven't really seen a lot of them, doing design or transaction, but a lot of them are focusing on operations. And that's because a lot of real estate companies realize that, they have to kind of transition their physical assets to add value through data, through services. And also, I emphasize this point, PropTech is really early in China. 80% of them received seed and angel or Series A funding. And last but not least, we have some like super core applications, and that's, around data analytics, robotics, and AR, VR related. This is kind of correlates what we just said earlier, that, a lot of this application and operation and maintenance. Another way to say this is, to help customers to help the customer enjoy the property a bit more, So these are something we have seen in the PropTech landscape. Any difference in terms, from other countries? I think to give you like kind of holistic view is right now the PropTech in China is mainly focused to provide or to serve the 2C market, which means, you know, a lot of solutions are giving convenience or letting consumers, tenants feel, or, you know, getting them to have a different kind of touch or understanding of physical assets. However, we haven't seen a lot of 2B assets. To say that is, you know, compared to the US, we haven't seen that many solutions that's helping real estate developers, real estate owners, operators to kind of making the process more efficient. So I think, you know, this is actually the opportunity in the future. And last, what's the challenges right now? I think, you know, this is going to be similar globally, is having real estate company realize the importance of tech. And that's exactly the value of why are we you know, putting Urban Lab together, is because a lot of startups find it very difficult to get approvals from real estate companies to do POCs or, you know, to do a little trial in their firms, because, you know, there's layers of approval. However, having an accelerator program like us that is top-down kind of management, that we're able to get, you know, senior executive approvals in the very beginning. So which means it's just, you know, later on, it's just implementation versus, you know, discussion or possibility. So I hope this addressed your question. And Chen and Anthony, I don't know if you have anything to add on.
I mean, about, I guess I can add on one thing to the answer about the differences between the Chinese PropTech ecosystem and many other PropTech ecosystems in the world. In the US, for example, where PropTech started quite a while back, a lot of the B2B enterprise solutions started because an individual firm or a landlord or an operator in the private sector was looking, because of some competitive need, was trying to cut costs or increase engagement or just try to differentiate themselves and become more competitive. In China, the story is a little different because PropTech as a label was never the dominant category that people would use to think about PropTech. Instead, PropTech in China started with smart cities. And Alice is actually the expert on this. Maybe she can talk a little bit more about the government later, but in China, smart cities and building smart cities and making existing cities smart is a national policy. Like, there are more smart cities under construction and in development in China than anywhere else in the world. And of course, the definition of that is up for a debate, it's up for some argument, but the scale just can't be compared. Because smart cities are such an all-encompassing wide policy drive in China, not just including real estate and property and buildings, but also things like infrastructure, energy, telecom, surveillance, the 5G network, smart transportation, smart payments. All of these things are just elements of smart cities. So when we look at the Chinese PropTech ecosystem, we can't look at it as an isolated real estate thing. We have to look at PropTech as one part of a wider context of smart cities. And so that policy drive from the top has really, really lit a fire under all of these real estate firms in China who are feeling a lot of pressure, both from the top and also from the market, to modernize and adopt new technologies.
Chen, do you have anything to add on there?
Well, I mean, just to echo what Anthony was saying, right? In from one perspective, I guess, you know, you can sort of say both, you know, companies in real estate sector are also sort of working in terms of 2G businesses, right? You know, if they wanted to get land, they first need to understand how both local and central government are visioning how this space can be used. So in that end, I actually do see potentially in the future towards this whole smart city movement, right? We did a little research. China, you know, there's China is planning to build over 500 smart cities, in the future. So this could be, I guess, a channel or a bridge where developers and real estate players kind of work hand in hand with technology companies, not just startups, but also existing established technology companies and enterprises that could potentially bring their capabilities into this whole formation of smart city that includes both smart governance as well as the whole building economy in general.
All right. So Jasmine and Ying, I guess, I want to just use 3 points to summarize what we just talked about, and also to answer Ying's question about the observation, between US PropTech. I think, to answer that, you have to see some fundamental difference between China real estate and US real estate. I think the first, voting points about China market is that Chinese real estate owners are multi-asset owners, meaning they operate everything. Say Vanke as an example, they own anything from condos, apartments, ski resorts, logistics centers, or office parks. So versus in the US, the REITs focuses on one asset type. So this would make tech implementation in China to really help the business efficiency. So actually, a lot of real estate operators could benefit greater from having tech implemented in the systems. So second is a trend we have seen in China is that a lot of those real estate developers are turning into service providers. I think, Swire can speak to that. Swire is a premium developer. However, I think, what makes Swire special is they're a service provider. You can see that in their malls, in their office parks. And then that's why they focus so much, to bring a lot of tech implementations to make people like their space, or to make the space a bit different through tech. And that's why you've seen a lot of those small operators are very eager to implement tech. And number 3 is what both of them have focused on is that the government is the invisible hand, because the urbanization rate in China is unprecedented in history. So to make cities more efficient, you have to use tech, or else, the city is going to blow up. And you have seen, a lot of news about our air qualities, about our, traffic congestions. But at the same time, you have also seen examples of how Alibaba is using tech to reduce the traffic jams in Hangzhou. So things like that is because, there are top-down push from the government, as well as, we have tech giants like Alibaba, Tencent, and now P9 has joined the alliance, that, there is a need to make, cities, to make physical assets more efficient. And then we can actually see that from the coronavirus happening right now. And then a lot of tech is happening and is helping, the next generation of workplace, or how people is going to work. And I guess, or Anthony or Chen can address to that if you guys are interested.
Chen, you want to talk about the virus as a test of smart technologies?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think obviously you guys can tell that none of us are really working in the office right now. So because of the current situation, I think a lot of the MNCs and also companies with really dense working population have decided to use remote working, or telecommuting as a way to face the current challenging right now. So, and we were just talking about this, the downloading rate of all of these remote working apps is, skyrocketing these days because of, the need to solve the current situation. Although I do not believe that it will, impact the way we work, in a short term, but definitely right now, because China has become the largest testing ground of telecommuting. So in terms of the decision-making process, when it comes to a point where the senior management team for a certain corporation or, the admin office, when they're trying to determine the next step for office relocation or their corporate real estate strategy, this may come into their mind, this very special period of time of whether it would work or not, depending on sort of, I would say, the DNA of the company. It definitely worked a lot better in certain circumstances, in specific companies in a specific industry. But, for some of the other companies, they might find, we probably need to stick with the original arrangement of office space. So this is definitely a very interesting period for a lot of us who are rethinking the world of real estate at this stage. And I work at JL, which, our office is located in HKR Taikoo is a Swire property. And, the current sort of measures that they're taking right now is fascinating in these days. Is, I was just walking around and trying to enter, Taikoo today, and by each of the entrance, they would have the iPad installed with infrared, trying to, see the body temperature of each guest, and if it shows that your body temperature is higher than normal, then the security guard would actually use an electronic thermometer to actually measure your body temperature again. So and also one of our Urban Lab companies called Chen Robotics. Their robots was, I think they were just doing patrol, right, Anthony? Right. Yeah, so, but now what's interesting is that they quickly switched the application of their robot, and now these little guys are just like patrolling the place to scan whether people are wearing masks or not. So I find it that extremely interesting of how these technology companies that we worked with can quickly make a turnaround in such short period of time. If we think about it, it's only within two weeks. And a lot of people are on break, during the Chinese New Year. And Chen Robotics is not the only companies that we worked with in the Urban Lab cohort. Two of our other companies, one is a big data analytics company called Quant Urban. So they basically plugged their mapping system with the data pool about the people or sort of the address where people are tested positive for coronaviruses as sort of a security alert for all the people who are using that. Similar to that, another company in Urban Lab is also using their technology to give you navigation to the closest fever clinics, so that they can help people to navigate in this whole chaos. So definitely, just looking from our experience with Urban Lab, I'm truly fascinated by the fact that these companies can make such sort of quick, turnaround with their technology capabilities to serve under current circumstances. And so, looking at sort of short-term to long-term implication, because of this epidemic, we definitely think that, technologies like robotics, IoT, big data, the unmanned vehicles, the drones are definitely going to be a very important areas to look at moving forward, because how these technologies can potentially help human beings in such crisis, and they can turn, because when we were doing research for Urban Lab, one of the observations that we had is that the more scenarios that your technology or your solution can help solve, the better chance it will be to be implemented or to be purchased by either a developer or operator and things like that. And the more we look at today's situation, we find there are more scenarios these days that a lot of the technologies that we're witnessing, that they can be implemented in all these different scenarios that can actually help us to face the current challenge. So so that I, from a personal perspective, I definitely see sort of the silver lining, under the current circumstances. And I do think that could potentially help, in terms of government policy of supporting technology and innovation, how it's probably going to shape some of the decision makers, their thinking towards developing the strategies in the near future.
Chen, I want to expand on one of your points, actually. I completely agree with you that the virus is kind of a wake-up call as to what is the value of, what is the future of work, and what is the future value of workspace, especially to an office landlord like us. And if any of you have read the book Rethinking Real Estate by Dror Poleg, shout out to him. It's a great book. One of my favorite takeaways from the book was about how office tenants and companies, they're not really paying you for the space. They're paying you for a productivity solution. They don't actually care where the work is done, as long as they can get the work done, as long as they can be productive and they can get their people to be productive. So given that we've had this virus situation and everyone's working from home, it's a wake-up call to us as an office landlord to think about what kind of productivity package are we offering our tenants? What are people really paying for? For decades and decades, obviously, the standard option was a bare shell office that you pay by the square foot. You do all the fit out and design and contractor work yourself. But currently in China, we see a lot of demand, actually, people asking us for digital tools and other things that we can supplement into a wider package to make them productive. So obviously, I don't think that the virus is going to change everything overnight, but it's already forcing us to think about what is the value of location, location, location. Should we be thinking about location plus other things, the digital tools, the services, the amenities that we can put into our buildings and our assets? Maybe we can sell more than just serviced office spaces or co-working spaces and amenities. Maybe we can think about digital packages and services and networks that we can offer to our clients to make them more productive in general. Maybe we can think about offering talent networks, helping them hire the right people. Maybe we can have AI and processing power out of the box. I mean, a lot of these tech companies out there are already starting to offer these services. And the virus, like I said, is a wake-up call for us.
Anthony, I have a quick question for you. This is Derek from Global PropTech. Just based on what you were just talking about, do you see the idea of community applications becoming very popular, something that is, you see a lot of PropTech companies or developing a solution for in China, because that's something that here in both in the US and New York, and then also a little bit here in Europe, we're starting to see some developers develop their own applications for engaging the tenants within their buildings and things.
Community applications in real estate are already mainstream and widespread in China. Just about every co-working space, every amenity space, every lounge, a lot of office buildings, a few of our own office buildings, they all have apps. Part of the reason for that is, number one, everyone's already on WeChat and everyone's extremely mobile first in China. So they're already used to using their phones for everything. Number two, because of the flexibility of WeChat mini programs, it's very easy to build that little application into the app itself at a low cost. And since everyone's already on WeChat, they don't have to buy or download another app. And then I guess the third reason is the cost of development is generally lower in China anyway. So this is definitely mainstream. I think the one thing that should become more mainstream is productivity and project management apps. So one big elephant in the room, Alice and Chen, you can tell me if you agree with this, but in general, the mobile working experience in China is not that great because WeChat is not a good tool for actual work, like to get a lot of document management stuff done. There's a new wave of popular apps like Lark from ByteDance, DingTalk, a number of these apps that are coming out now. Well, they've been out for a long time, but they're suddenly becoming very popular now because everyone's forced to work from home. These productivity tools in I guess in other ecosystems, they've been around for a very long time, stuff like Trello or Asana or Jira or Monday.com. These have been around for a while, but I think in China, the way that people use the technology and the habits that they have, coupled with the fact that everyone is already on a super app anyway, makes the dynamics really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how these apps affect the way that people work in China and in Asia in general over the next couple of years.
Nice. Thank you for that. There's another question that came up as well in the chat screen. So can you please talk about the government's role in driving the PropTech growth? Does it come in the form of policy, funding, promotion of the private sector, or use of tech?
And maybe Alice can talk about that.
Sure. So to answer that question, actually, it's a great one because I think, that's what makes China super unique is, the role of government. And the big role of government is the invisible hand behind, how economy is running and, what's going to be popular. And all the startups, all the entrepreneur is actually try to grasp where the policy is going and to ride along. So I think Anthony and Chen both has emphasized that China is the biggest market for smart city development. And, this is not only, from the top down reason that because, we have to, we have so many issues with the urbanization rate in China. So the problems arises with how fast China's developing. And of course, we're trying to make tech our cities more efficient. But at the same time, I think it's also because how developed tech market is in China that, again, really pushes how cities, evolve. If for those of you who don't know China that well or is still, trying to learn about China, China recently has two major policy. The first one is called Internet Plus policy. And by saying that is, the government is pushing to integrate the internet with the traditional industry to fuel the economic growth. And, to give a few examples is, for example, smart city is a great one because, in the government right now, for example, if I have to register a home, I just go to the government. There is, a machine connected with all the records. I just, register there and I'm able to get the home transaction done within 3 hours. I don't know how many how many countries in the world can do that. But right now, this is how efficient government is becoming in China, and to use, the power of internet or to having companies like, Alibaba or, Ping An Tech to help them to achieve that goal. And the second major policy in China is called Made in China 2025. This is to transform China into a world-leading manufacturing power in a few key sectors by 2025. And why is this important? Is because, to become that figure, to become a leading manufacturing power, they need to be efficient. They need to leverage the power of tech. And what are some tech that China is really good at? Is, a few of them that is probably going to lay the bricks for the future. The first one is 5G. For those of you know, like right now, Huawei is, the center of, a lot of conflicts. Trump hated it. It's because, China has such a dominance in the 5G development and R&D in the world. So just last month, end of last month, UK said, it will use Huawei's help to build its 5G infrastructure. That's because, I think, China is being a pioneer in the industry, and this will have a super big effect on, how the city is going to operate and how everyone will operate. And the second is IoT. China is becoming the world's largest market for IoTs, and IoTs, as you guys know, Internet of Things, it's going to be, foundation for a lot of things: autonomous vehicles, smart homes, smart office spaces. So everything of them will be connected. Not to say that, China has such a robust hardware supply chain system, and it's going to be, laying a very strong foundation for IoTs, and which again will contribute how efficient the cities will operate. Number 3 is cloud computing. So this is an area that's still growing really fast, and according to some stats, China's cloud computing market is growing something around 30% annually. Actually, in the next 3 years. And number 4, big data. This is also a big emphasis of China's tech strategy. Last but not least is AI. China's AI ranks the top, and it's probably on par with the US. And, you guys have heard a lot of things about facial recognition and how, Chinese cities is becoming really, really safe because of surveillance cameras. And it's because, because of China's top-down kind of policy, we have an advantage in data collections. And then there's a lot of investment from the government in the infrastructure. So for the cameras, as well, also different kinds of application, I'm sure that, Swire or JL can speak to how they're applying AI to real estate, to their office spaces. So just, that being said, it's just a lot of top-down kind of policy pushing cities or pushing tech to pushing China to be a bit of a major tech hub. At the same time, tech is helping the cities to solve problems in the process of urbanization. I think, they go hand in hand, and that's what makes, tech or smart city in China very different and very interesting compared to other places.
Yeah, I think we can add one more to the Alice's list, which would be the technology that powers how everything is on demand in China. So China has some of the most advanced logistics and fulfillment technology in the world currently that enables everything to be delivered to your house or everything to be delivered to a specific location very quickly. Robots that power all of the stuff in warehouses, mobility technology that allows things to go from one place to another more quickly. This isn't a particular type of technology, but just a broader category that we've been observing. And I think as Urban Lab as Urban Lab evolves in future cohorts, we would think about maybe looking into some of this technology as well, specifically mobility.
Yeah, and just going back to Ying's question, that I actually don't. I think from the government's policy standpoint, it's more on how it's vision sort of the future of technology under, in the whole industrial revolution 4.0 or whatever you call it. But it's not really driving the prop tech growth. It's really just driving the technology growth in general. And when it comes to actual support, definitely funding is key. That's why actually for some of our Urban Lab companies, they started off in US. Some of the founders that they worked and they studied in overseas previously, but when I asked them why they wanted to come back to China to start their business. It's because first of all there's government support. So when they decided to register in a city. Actually, a lot of local governments, they have financial support for technology companies to register in their district. So that becomes a key decision maker, key decision-making factor for all of these companies. And second of all, because of the market size and just overall the scale, it's really easy for them to find all of the different scenarios for them to apply the technology. So we're not really saying that definitely China is already on the frontier of all of these technology development that we just talked about. It's because the market is so diverse, and it has so a huge amount of scenarios that people are willing to experiment. And one of the key difference from Chinese users versus other users is the lack of sensitivity towards private information. That can be a good thing when it comes to technology. So again, a lot of these different technology, when they're trying to test whether they would work or not, it would be easier for them to test in the context in China. So that's why I think some of these founders, they decided to move back to China, even though they probably started off in US or in other places before.
Just to follow up on that, do you see moving forward PropTech picking up in China because of some of the many factors that you just mentioned that make it a little bit easier to develop the software solutions and to develop them into a service, a whole service for clients there, based on the amount of data that they can get and the support that they're getting from the government, which they may be a little bit restricted elsewhere?
I mean, I think all of those factors are going to contribute to PropTech's growth in China. It's going to grow naturally just because of all the same reasons that PropTech is growing in every other ecosystem or country. There's a lot of value locked up in real estate, right? And if you can get some sort of technology that increases the yield or increases your asset value, of course, both the private sector and the public sector will be very interested in that. For reasons that we've all talked about throughout this talk, the government support and policy drive definitely plays a factor here. The visibility and ease of obtaining data is another big factor that will play into the growth of PropTech, and also how a lot of the leapfrog technologies in China, like the fact that everyone's mobile first and everyone's already on a super app, will also be major factors. But I don't think the core reasons and the core drivers are actually that different from any other ecosystem currently.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. As we're coming up on the top of the hour now, I was wondering if you guys have any closing remarks that you would like to make.
Sure. I guess, we just want to say a few things about the overall kind of tech landscape for PropTech or among the real estate industries. A big one is, right now what we have seen, like Swire's new venture team, like Giles, really heading up the PropTech team right now, we have seen real estate companies in China coming with new business models and new business lines circled by tech and enabled by tech. So we see a real estate plus kind of ecosystem happening in China right now, and a lot of them are trying to build in-house tech capabilities. And second, in China, being a very vibrant kind of tech market in general, we've seen, a lot of interesting and customer-centered digital experience in the physical spaces right now. Hema is being a very creative supermarket. And then we've seen different tech in shopping malls. And we see digital empowered services in, JL or in Swire offices. There's a lot of omni-channel experience also here. And number 3 is, just what we have been working on through Urban Lab. We're trying to build a tech partnership and PropTech ecosystem together with everyone in this market and in this different next level of real estate. So we wanted to partner with tech company, with startups, and with different real estate companies to engage in open innovation platforms and just to work together. And we really think, this market is going really fast, and just, by working together, we're able all benefit from it.
Yeah, and I think just add on to that, although the current situation with the coronavirus is definitely going to impact, the overall economy in a short period of time. But again, I think it's a wake-up call for a lot of real estate players, how to, become agile in this new form of economy to face the uncertainty. And I think, I'm not saying technology is the answer, but, I think there's definitely a lesson to learn that, during this period of time, how we as, real estate players to really rethink of our strategy and how we can benefit from building this, technology sort of ecosystem that it would potentially help to make quick decisions and, to basically to survive, when it comes to a very sudden incident or crisis like what we're facing today. There's definitely a lot of lessons to be learned, from, some of these technology players that we're currently see in news every day, how they can become so agile and to quickly make changes in their applications to serve under the current circumstances. And I think that has become essential for a lot of the leaders in the real estate industry to rethink their strategy and to adapt into this new way of running businesses. And this is not just, going to be limited in China, but it's definitely going to, make a lot of people to reconsider how, by applying technology and this sort of empowerment, how could they help us to become more efficient and, to become, I guess, more, incident proof, in a risk proof in a certain way.
My closing comments, I'll make it fast, is about risk. Anyone who's familiar with PropTech or involved in PropTech is familiar with how risk averse landlords and operators are. The corporates never want to try something new. Everyone agrees that this is the biggest bottleneck to tech adoption. Well, that's why Asia is so exciting. Because in Asia, you have so many other factors like the government stepping in to de-risk things, to provide support, to drive things through top-down policy, to improve the infrastructure and networks and telecom and transport that support PropTech and support property. That top-down de-risking is going to play a really big factor, I think, in the next couple of years. And it's not just in China. You can see it in a lot of Asian countries, and hopefully we'll start to see it more in established economies like the US and Europe as well. The more support there is that makes it in the corporate's incentive to try something risky, the faster we're going to see tech development. So I think we're really excited to see what's going to happen in the countries that support and drive tech the most. And I guess with that, thanks to everyone for tuning in. Thanks for inviting us.
No, thank you guys for showing up and for giving a great presentation, great conversation. I really enjoyed it. I hope all the attendees really enjoyed it as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.